be excellent in your craft that God's given you, because God's obviously give you that talent and passion, right? So if you're not passionate, find something you're passionate about. If God called you to do this, even thought it's not seeing like mine's more obvious, right? It's in entertaining, it's in the theaters, but really good at do excellent. Like whatever God's called you to do, whether it's a lawyer, whether you're a cook, whether you have a restaurant, be the light of the world, because you're not serving man, you're serving God.
Revolution of common sense.
Revolution of common sense.
A revolution of common sense.
Truth was once common sense, but today, truth is uncommon. Explore biblical truths around faith, business, and politics with Peter Demas. Uncommon Sense in Current Times.
Hey folks, welcome to Uncommon Sense in Current Times. I met Davy Liu at a Culture and Christianity conference and listened to his story and realized he is definitely somebody we had to have and talk to about on the show. Davy Liu was born in Taiwan. He moved to the U.S. as a teenager. He struggled in school, but his gift for art led him to study at the Ringling School of Art and Design, and it led him to be one of the few people that was in Walt Disney feature animations. He worked on classics like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Mulan. At the height of his career, though, he walked away from Disney. He walked away from the big money that Disney was there because he felt he was called to tell stories with a deeper spiritual meaning. This move has cost him deeply, personally, financially, but it's also led him to the founding of Kendu Films, which he creates faith-based animation and books such as The Invisible Tales and the Giant Leaf. So, Davey, I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for letting me be on here and shine in your community.
So, okay. So you ended up getting to Disney from Taiwan and all of this. So just real quick, so the people who have not heard your story, like you had to obviously deal with identity and perseverance as you're kind of learning this process and growing up. So this move from this teenager struggling in school to being to being a Disney animator of some of the most well-known films they've done. What did that teach you about all that?
It taught me that God doesn't make dumb kids. I mean, I'm the youngest of 7, so my mom always thought I was a Forrest Gump because I was a straight F. I mean, in academic study in China, in Taiwan, I mean, that's being a laughing stock. So, but my dad always tells me, you can do all things through Christ. So I came to America when I didn't understand a word of English, and I had an art class that didn't require English, only required me to draw straight lines, and I discovered I can't make straight A, and I was good at drawing straight lines. And so that contrast, it's like the Forrest Gump, got immigrated to America and then went to White House when I was sitting there drawing for Disney, and it's such a dream come true. And the contrast of not believing a lie that you don't have to be like your brother and your sister or someone else, you can just be you. And I'm just so astounded at what my dad said. You can do all things through Christ. Every kid is unique in God's eyes.
At some point in time, though, you had to realize, like, this is not just a talent. Like, you had to recognize that this is a calling. This is something more than that. Did you realize that as a teenager and just kind of pushed into it? Or is it just like, hey, I'm good at this, and then eventually you're just like, man, I'm really good at this. This brings me, like, purpose. When did it kind of move from talent to calling?
When I came to America and I drew a Chinese dragon in 1982 and I won top 20 in the whole United States, and we have a signature autograph from the White House from Ronald Reagan saying congratulations, I knew that this is not your ordinary principal calling from your school. And then my parents, their eyes turned too, because they used to force me to play piano, just mimic all the Chinese kids does, right? Learn the programming, computer, Apple. I was just like hiding in my room, looking at, my mom was worried about me looking at pornography because I was looking at Michelangelo's, all the naked sculptures. I was admiring Sistine Chapel of Michelangelo's painting. This is me, 13-year-old, right? Every kid's watching computer stuff, programming. All I wanted to do is stare at classical art. I mean, I was just astounded at the anatomy of human body. So, but my dad did told me though that, hey, Davey, you were dead before you arrived. So I was 10 days dead in my mother's womb. So my dad always told me that you're a miracle baby. So we don't know why you were here, but you obviously have a purpose. So I always had that something like that behind my head, that I knew that my dad told me that I had a miracle, according to his testimony.
But you worked on films such as Lion King, Mulan, and I mean, being a creative person, I mean, there had to have been some type of restrictions, restraints, et cetera, especially working in a studio system. But at the same time, in order for you to be successful in that system, you had to be compliant of some level. So, like, what did you find in that? Like when you're dealing with that part of the journey and you're battling your creative side with that plus your Christian side, which we'll get into that in a moment, but just that the restraints from Disney to work in a studio, did you still find it to be satisfying for a moment or for at all, or when did you find that?
I say I was so blessed. I would say working at Disney is such a great experience. Disney is just a great company. They really let you go all out. They think big and they really celebrate creativity. Listen, they find eight the best kids in the world, right? It's like King Nebuchadnezzar looking for Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? I mean, they look for cream of the crop. Once you're in the studio, Disney is the best studio. If you're an artist, they let you shine, whether you're storytelling, creativity, let you soar, and they pay you money to let you soar. I have a huge respect of the discipline and the excellence that they bring and how hard they work. I mean, they would create something for millions and millions of dollars, then they'll throw it in the trash because they don't think it's good. I have such a huge respect. So as an artist, I knew that this is something that I want to be here for the rest of my life because, who get to do this? You get to draw, get to imagine, get to create voices and characters. And I didn't know that these characters you create, that's going to touch generations for millennium to come. So.
All right, so these are the words that you just used, and I had to write them down. Best studio, pay you money to let you soar, excellent. Uh, Everybody listening to this would be like, let's see, why, why would you walk away? I mean, honestly, because you hear those things and you're like, you're talking about how amazing this company is, and you have a chance to work for this company, and they're to pay you to work for this company that you find excellent and such a great place. But then
Yeah.
you said, okay, I gotta walk away. Like, was it a slow walk, a slow build? Was it a one-time thing? Like, why would you wanna walk away from something that in your own words is excellent and great?
Yeah. So my agent told me you're gonna bank $15 million in your retirement when you're done. I love my job, film after films, and so it was a slow walk away. Because when I go to church locally, when I was in LA, I would go to watch these kids, and these poor kids are just watching the same stuff over and over again. Those talking vegetables, and there's just nothing new. And I saw, there's nothing wrong with them, but just the quality of it. And then the thing that hit me, Peter, was the statistic. They did a study at Christian Magazine today in 1995 that the North America kids that go to church for 18 years of Sunday school, VBS, and so on. After 18 years, these are Christian kids. After 18 years of 4 years of liberal college or Christian college, only less than 5% retain their faith. That tells me 18 years of that Sunday school VBS, whatever that church is give it to them, the entertainment, whatever that is, that these children are not having a personal encounter with Jesus Christ in that 18 years. And I thought, man, kids that watch The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, right? All it takes is one. And how many remain fans? 100%, right? Every kid growing up, they still remember that hour and a half of entertainment and they never forget it, the song. So I remember when I was working at Disney, first day internship, Disney says, we want to get kids before they turn 10 because they won't forget it. They'll tell their children and they'll come to our theme park and buy our merchandise. So these are very intentional. So when I saw how many millions of dollars they poured in that 90 minutes animated films, that is extremely powerful visually, audially, everything that they do, they pour it all out. That's my heart. I said, why don't we Christian? When I say we, I have to take ownership in that because I recognize that the Christian publishers, the Christian filmmakers, the faith-based, their excellent benchmark is so far-fetched from what Hollywood is doing currently and still is, because that excellence is not being taught in the seminary. That excellence of artistry is not being taught today. I'm talking about today, that the school, if you have a Christian kids that want to send them to art school, no good Christian art school out there today. I taught in the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and they're the top tier that they were able to recruit us. When I was working at Disney, every weekend I would fly up there and teach these kids. How would these Christian seminary or Christian university could afford excellent, Disney people that's actually work at Disney and teach? So when I saw the difference in that discipline, that's why the market, the just the team that you get to select, it's very, very thin. And then you have this volunteer mentality. You can't really create excellence with this volunteer mentality. You gotta really be picky, and like Disney does, pick the excellence, the best of the best to serve your content. So that's why I want to start a company that really start from books, and then hopefully we get enough funding for the films to create excellent quality animated films that represent the biblical gospel, like The Lion King.
So you mentioned that, and you talk about the Lion King as kind of as biblical. I think most people out there listening to it probably would not think so off the surface. I did not think so until I heard you speak about it. And because one of the questions I was going to ask you, which is, could you not also just be a light within Disney and change it? But it does sound like on some level, it was because of the Lion King. So for those again who don't know that, the Lion King, by the way, is my wife's absolute favorite movie of all times. Same thing. She could still sing the songs. She was in college, I think, when it came out. She could still sing all the songs. She could still state all the lines.
Right.
I mean, and it used to be one of those. It was Lion King, Aladdin, or The Little Mermaid was always like my first rental for the first date movie at my
Yeah.
home when you would rent a movie and bring the girl home because it was always safe. It was easy, but I never really thought about it from a Christian perspective before. So how is it more of that type of biblical message in The Lion King?
Yeah, so I think Walt Disney himself, he has a faith in the background of his. He always brings these moral, family, traditional value. So when we worked on The Lion King, there was this guy named Don Hahn. He was a PK kid. He's the one who kind of endorsed the story of Moses into Simba's story. So if you look at the whole curvature of The Lion King, it's a biblical gospel shadow of Moses' biography of his grew up in the kingdom, and then he forgot he was in the desert and saw the burning bush and went back to proclaim and set his people free. So I thought, wow, this is fantastic. So and then they did a study, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King. The Lion King today, that Simba alone is 32 years ago. It has made $14.8 billion out of the $60 million investment. This is what I talk about. You work smart, not work hard. I mean, one film, it continued to be lucrative because Simba still look 8 year old, still that cute little cub, that draws children's imaginations. So during that time, I had this wonderful stories that I thought would be great. So in Disney, you get to pitch every 6 months. It's called a Gone Show. You get to have an idea, you pitch it to them. So I came up with this story of Noah's Ark story, animal perspective of Noah's Ark. The main character is Kendu the fox. So when I said, hey, what about animal perspective Noah's Ark? So I wrote this 10-page summary of what this story is about. Well, long story short, the executive wanted me to put, two gay turtle and two lesbian dove inside the ark. And this is 1995. So I knew in my heart the convictions of where the studio was going. I started seeing that they were producing a lot of this trans animated stuff for children, and they were coming out all in year 2000, 2001. And so because Walt Disney's nephew Royal Disney was there, he was the one who put the foot stop over it. And so, but today Disney company is owned by public now. So I am, um, I knew that this war is going to come. I thought it's a dream job. I didn't know it's going to become a spiritual warfare, and I did not know that. I always said Disney is the largest children's ministry, not the Church of Jesus Christ. And I think it should be the other way around. That church should have the largest children's ministry and not the world.
When you when I look at it, and you were saying, that came out in '95, and then obviously they've been highly criticized, especially in the last 5 years, of some of the and it's showing in a lack of success, at least at the box office, lack of success that they're having on things. Is this clearly? It sounds to me like this has started a long time ago, or was this something that you have to put in a really long time ago, and it's just now we're just seeing it, and no one had any clue this was going on back in the mid '90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, Disney does 10 years and 15 years, 20-year trajectory of their film, and the nations, who's going to be watching it. So when they did Mulan, they didn't do it for money. They did it to introduce China, because China at that time, there's only maybe theaters, maybe only 500 theater in China. Right now, China has more theater than America. So Disney has to introduce this brand through their own stories. So Mulan was the introductions of who Walt Disney is. They celebrate your culture. So it was a soft intro. So Disney is very super powerful with marketing, the way they introduce Aladdin's the same thing, introduce the Middle East culture. So they understand that they have to shake hands. And so yes, they plan 10, 20 years from now. But unfortunately, there is some films. So Disney says all they have to do is make 7 films, and all they have to do is one home run. So one Lion King out of the 7 films. But Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin is not a home run for Disney. Okay. This is how high of excellence they shoot. So every year, once in a while, you have Frozen. Frozen is considered a home run. I mean, that's like a multi-billion dollars franchise. So, again, their business model alone has set the faith-based apart. Faith-based is always nonprofit, so therefore there's no conviction as far as making excellence. So nonprofit means you only hire not the very best artists, right? So as far as Kendu Films, we got to pay them the same. Another thing is faith-based. They don't pay the kids well. A lot of these Christian companies, they don't pay them well at all. So therefore, talented artists like myself, there's no way I could survive working for them. So.
But in all fairness, is that just a problem with the market itself? I mean, this is maybe a which comes first, chicken or the egg, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
if
Start from the top.
because yeah, because if it's not being successful, there's nothing to pay. Now we're seeing, I think, a switch in that a lot of like Christian films are becoming a lot more successful
Sure.
with it. So, but in order to get those people, in order to get the excellence and to do a lot of that stuff, in order to pay them, especially 10 years out from basically being able to potentially see income from it, that doesn't seem to be a good business model. I mean, and again, I don't know what I'm talking about when I say that, but just off the surface, am I right in that?
So animations, it takes 2 to 3 years to produce, and then you don't see the profit residual probably 4 to 5 years. Yeah, so that it's a long-term investment. So therefore, the faith base is a little bit more scary as far as because animation is planting a tree, not planting a flower. So it's a long term. But one time you do it once, it's perpetual. It's forever. It's 100, 200 years, right? So to invest in something like that, it is pretty risky. It's no guarantee. But again, somebody has to really take on that challenge to really bring that excellence. Because you look at Sistine Chapel, right? Michelangelo, right? I mean that painting, it's hundreds of years ago, but it's continued being that excellence, the light of the world. So we need to really create that. And when I see Jesus preaching parables, it's like, how can we make something that so difficult? The Bible is so difficult even for adults. How can you make it so cute and lovable for children, endearing to them, right? When they're young, when they're so young and they're now so distracted with so much Hollywood, amazing special effects, with all these characters that they're all 3D computerized. They look so real to children. I mean, imagine the Lion King. These are cartoon 2D hand drawn, but now you have something that looks so realistic that kids can't tell the difference from that to Santa Claus or Jesus. And that's why I think it's a tool that we can use to personify the gospel for children.
So what I love that you do, and even like with the with the work then that you talk about, you're not doing things that are symbolic of the gospel, like the Lion King, that or symbolic of things. You're just presenting it from a different perspective.
That's right.
So like so let's talk about the let's talk about Kendu the fox, and like why that's perspective of it is different, and why kids can relate to that and still understand it is a real biblical story, not just something that is just kind of fun and maybe my youth pastor can connect it where I might understand it.
Yeah, so imagine the Lion King. My vision is imagine if the Lion King comes out and every church can use Hakuna Matata VBS in Sunday school. I think every church will be packed. I think church needs a sword. I think church doesn't. So I talked to one of the larger publisher in Nashville. They told me that our theology won't allow us to have a talking animals for kids. It's not biblical. So God gave me this vision of like, how God like always use parable, right? And then the disciple would be frustrated, right? So the main character Kendu is just a little fox, Kendu. So Kendu's name comes from you can do all things through Christ. So that Kendu has a dream of the giant leap. Well, the dinosaur laughing at them. We don't believe in the ark or the flood. That's why they're not around. So this story, it's really inspired by one verse. The Bible says in book of Genesis that the animal came to the ark 7 days before the flood. So as an imaginative, creative Disney animator, here I'm thinking, in 120 years, what did they saw Noah's Ark as? Maybe they saw it as animal eaters. But those who by faith went inside the animal eater's belly, they saw it as animal savior. Just like who the people saw Jesus was when he came. His people thought he was an animal eater, but the Gentile and his disciple found out that he is an animal savior. So it's a biblical allegory eventually that how animals found Noah's Ark, this giant leaf symbolized, that's going to save all the flood. And the same thing with this fish perspective, Moses parting the Red Sea. All right. And the main character is Sesam. His Sesam's name comes from Moses reverse. So I basically put Moses as this little fish, and his whole Moses experience you're seeing from a fish eyes lens of part of the Red Sea. So this one is a new one, world perspective of Jonah. This one is two little pigs, Jen and Tile, and the donkey's perspective of Jesus. So this is Jordan's guess. So this one I put Christmas and Easter together. And this one, it's a lion perspective of Daniel. So that lion behaved just like Daniel. He was caught and locked in the lion's den. And then this is four girls perspective. It's like four Eve want to be the cutest, prettiest girl in Garden Eden. And of course, they found out if you eat that tree, you actually would die. And so, Peter, this is just creativity, right? It's taking the opportunity of what I learned at Disney, which is magic of storytelling, just like Jesus with the parables. They have to be allegories. I thought about people in China where the church is being shut down. If Disney can take their Lion King to China, I can take my King of Kings to the ends of the earth. So our books that I just show you in 2015 were one of the best children's moral books in China, right?
Wow.
So how do I do it? Because all my product doesn't have that church lingo. I don't have that religious aspect of it. It's very entertaining, but the Christians certainly, a lot of crusaders, campus crusader will take this because it's English and Chinese, and they're able to take the story of Jesus. So this is in China, right? So they get to learn English and Chinese and also the gospel of Jesus Christ through Donkey's perspective. So I just
You
say
know,
that, you got to preach the gospel as a snake, not like a dove. So,
I love the idea, and partly because when I grew up going to church, but I was not a Christian, and I didn't become a Christian until much later in life. But what I remember most was when we go to the doctor's offices, they would have these they were blue little animated Bible stories, and it was the from beginning to end, and I would always read them while I was waiting for the doctor, and I liked them so much. My parents got me the whole set. I remember book number 4 was my favorite. But I learned all the stories of the Bible, and even though I went far away,
Yeah.
And again, and my parents did a good job on other things, but even though I went far away, one of the things that made me understand when I became a Christian and got to know Jesus, I remembered all those stories, and so for me, it was not much of a stretch. So even when I was not a Christian, I still believed those stories to be true. They had a significant impact on my life, even when I was living my worst life. And so you're 100% correct. I do know this works, and obviously, this generation is a little bit different. They need better animation than probably what those books are. I'd love to see copies of them now. So as you do this and as you're going there, obviously you're doing something that is strong for Christ. You've had to go through some type of spiritual attack when you're doing this. You had to go through this. Tell me about some of what happened. You had to have.
Yeah, so I was on a, peak. After I left Disney, I had a good offer. I went to work for George Lucas on Star Wars in 1998, 99, and then it was during that time, and my heart still struggled, Peter. I mean, honestly, I knew that, if I didn't want to use my talent to serve a kingdom that is bringing dark agenda for children, but I didn't want to run away. So a metaphor came to me when I saw King David, little boy who was delivering lunch, and then that day he has no business fighting. But then when he saw that his nation was being taunted by Goliath, and he said, "Not by might nor by power." And so even though his brothers and all the Israelite were all boycotting the Goliath in the cave, David, he uses life and he uses gift, and he took 5 smooth stones, but God only needed one, and that he slain. He didn't boycott Goliath that day, right? He took down Goliath. And I thought about oftenly, I do a lot of homeschool event around the country, and I see every parent, every family, every Christians are boycotting. But I'm saying, who is going to take this giant down that is taunting our nations, our children, our families? So when I have that testimony of David, and I said, no more. I mean, because my low self-esteem of want my mom to see, and my mom never see any of my films. My mom just want me to be a doctor engineer. I'm 57. She's still hoping that I change my mind. But that mother's endorse of proud of you is so important. But then when God put a blueprint from the Bible says that you're uniquely and fearfully and wonderfully made. I hear the whisper from heaven that God says, Davy, I'm proud of you. Man, that endorsement goes so much further. So that desire of winning an Oscar before I die has subsided, Peter. I just saw myself went to heaven. I didn't log in a million of semi-truck of Oscars, right? To heaven. That would be trash. I saw myself bring one child to heaven has far more significant than bringing billions of earthly awards. So when I was 32 and 33, I saw Jesus die for me. I'm 33. Am I going to retire and serve Jesus, or am I going to give God my prime? So Jesus set an example that he died in his very best. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be remembered in heaven that I give God my leftovers. I want to say, God, I want to serve you just like you. Before I turn 33, I want to give it all. And I did. So when I was 31 years old, I left. I didn't know the consequences of my first wife. She left because I left a 6-figure job. I left a beautiful dream of a Hollywood. So my first, it cost me everything. But that verse of Matthew 14:33 says, "This one man that came to search for a treasure, he hidden it, and he went home joyfully and sold everything he has." That verse is the man that I want to be, because I knew this is going to be worth it all. It's worth the fight. Whatever it takes, if it only takes one person to bring down the giant of Goliath, so be it. Because it's far more significant than any accomplishment in heavenly value than earthly terms.
Well, uh, uh, that's inspiring. I think too often we don't recognize because I think we want to worship the Jesus that will bring us stuff instead of the Jesus that's the real Jesus that's out there. And w- and we're kind of near the end of time. So I want to ask you this last question I want to ask you this one more question before we start to go. But what advice do you have those that are out there who are possibly working they're Christians working in either non-Christian companies or Christians that are working for Christian companies, but they just don't have that. They're seeing their work as the only thing that they're doing. What advice do you have for people like that are out there right now?
Yeah, I would say, just be good. Do the good work. Be excellent in your craft that God's given you, because God's obviously give you that talent and passion, right? So if you're not passionate, find something you're passionate about. But if God called you to do this, even though it's not seen like mine's more obvious, right? It's in entertaining, it's in the theaters, but really good at do excellence. Like whatever God's called you to do, whether it's a lawyer, whether you're a cook, whether you have a restaurant, be the light of the world, because you're not serving man, you're serving God, right? So here I am quietly in the last 20 years. All I can't find the money for my film, but all I can do is create this beautiful books and write the vision down of what this Bible can be, So if that's the lane that God's calling me, then I'm gonna make sure this book, it's beautiful, it'll fly off the shelf for what it is. And so I think just, don't underestimate how powerful you are in that quiet little corner in that office where no one sees you. You got to know that God sees you. Being excellent, being a good steward in that position that God's called you. Look at Daniel. Look at all these guys that they're all behind stage that no one sees. Even Joseph was in a dungeon. God sees you. When you have that heart of serving the King of all kings and not your earthly boss, man, God just smile. It pleases him. So remember, no matter what you do, whether you're mom or parent, do it with excellence. Do it all your heart, all your mind, soul, and body.
So for people to buy your books, to find out about your books, to find out about the potential films, and to maybe I'm sure if you're in that process, you're needing investors in that process too. Where do they go? How do they find out about this? Because I think this is way too important. Because you're right, we can either support artists like you, or we can continue to support Disney and others like that. So where do they go? How do they find out about this?
Yeah, just real simple. It's just Kendu Kids, Kendu kids.org. You can find me there. It's just I just mentioned you heard me at Peter's podcast. And then you can support us. We're a nonprofit here for continue to translate our books to different language. We want to take the Bible to all tribe, nation, and tongues. And if you want to invest in our films, you can reach out to me as well, and then we can talk about that. So you can go to visit kendufilms.com. You'll see all the projects that we are developing currently.
Wonderful. Davey, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for all you do. For someone who cannot draw a straight line, I am coveting your gifts and skills, even though I'm not supposed to. But nevertheless, it is absolutely amazing what you do. And I'm glad that you're using your gifts for God's kingdom. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. You can do it.
Thank you so much.